So I've already done Itachi versus the 5 Kage, and it was more or less in a similar vein as today's video, pitting Itachi up against multiple opponents at the same time to see if he could win or not. So today's title and thumbnail should have made it obvious, but just in case it didn't, it's going to be Itachi versus the Legendary Sannin, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru at the same time. So basically a 1v3. I have a quick announcement before we get started. So in accordance with my hot takes videos that I'm going to be doing every now and then, I'm also going to be doing Q&A videos as well. And each Q&A video will be about its own separate topic. So for example, my first Q&A video will be about Naruto, my second one will be about Dragon Ball, third one about Marvel, so on and so forth. And I will keep doing them repeatedly over and over just to get better engagement with my subscribers, to get to know y'all more, just to have that interaction with you guys, because y'all are what makes this channel happen. Y'all are the best subscribers, like I tell you all the time. So if you want to increase your chances of your question being on the videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You have to be a subscriber to increase your chances of your question and or hot take being on each video. So be a subscriber and leave a comment or question on the video or in the community post, because I will be making a community post a week or two in advance between each hot take or Q&A video, so y'all know ahead of time. With that said, if you are subscribed to the channel already, be sure to subscribe, and if you like today's content, hit the like button and comment below what you think. Y'all are the best subscribers, don't ever forget that. With all that said, let's get into it. So for full clarity, this is going to be Itachi as healthy as we can get. Now, I've said this multiple times in the past, but yes, I know, there is no definitive example of a healthy Itachi Uchiha. I know. But I'm going to do this fight the most justice, and part of doing so is not using Itachi when he fought Sasuke in Shippuden, or in other words, on his deathbed. I talked about this in my War Kakashi versus Itachi video, so I'll play a little bit of the recap from my scaling for healthy Itachi here. To give a couple points of reference to help gauge how strong Itachi could be if he was in tip-top shape, I've often given him a reference point of 5 Kage Summit Sasuke in terms of chakra reserves and eyesight duration. Obviously, in terms of skill, intelligence, and power, Itachi scales above Sasuke at this point. But I think when it comes to how long Itachi's chakra and eyesight can hold out, if he were to hypothetically spam his MS the same way Sasuke did in this arc, that this is a fair comparison, as Sasuke had pretty much just gotten his MS and only used like one jutsu in one fight, whereas Itachi has had his MS for a while now, and we can pretty much assume he had used it a lot less, since he's probably had it for like 5+ years and didn't start going blind until mid-Shippuden. And being that Sasuke was able to spam his MS abilities and lasted for quite a while and didn't start actually going blind until the end of the arc, implies that Itachi could at least last longer, or just as long at the very least. Albeit Sasuke did get some help for both Zetsu and Karin, so maybe it's safer to say and assume that he'd last for about the same amount of time as Sasuke and not longer. In terms of strength and physical capabilities, we can also say he'd scale a bit higher than his Edo counterpart, as Edo Tenseis are confirmed to not be at their full power. Now, when it comes to travel speed, it is tough to determine how fast he actually is, but there really are no moments where he himself is running, or in this case, traveling, like Minato or the Raikage, to determine how fast he is when it comes to travel speed. Not to mention, an earlier feat, which is arguably more impressive, was that Itachi was able to throw up the entire Susanoo and or Yadamir, or both, in a split second that Kirin was launched. The main reason I say it's arguably more impressive is due to the fact that he did this while he was near blind and near deaf. Now, as for the Sannin, for Jiraiya, this will include the version of him that fought against Pain in the Hidden Rain Village. For Tsunade, it'll be War Arc Tsunade, but with a little tweak of her having the 100 healings that was stored for the same amount of time as she did before the Pain invasion. In other words, like up to 2 to 3 years, just to make it the most fair. And for Orochimaru, this will be the version of him that fought against Hiruzen. So he'll still have his arms, and by extension the rest of his jutsu, but he'll only have access to 2 reanimations, the nerfed Hashirama and Tobirama. And this will probably go without saying, but just for full clarification, each side are going to be fighting with killer intent. So this is going to be a hypothetical versus battle with the gloves off. And the last thing I want to note is intel. And being that this is Orochimaru that fought Hiruzen, he will not know about the Totsuka Blade or Yadamir. And by extension, neither will Jiraiya and Tsunade. But all 3 Sannin will know about Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi, since Jiraiya learned about the Black Flames from his encounter with Itachi, and Tsukuyomi from Kakashi's encounter with Itachi. Therefore, Jiraiya will likely share this intel with Tsunade and Orochimaru. So the first aspect of the fight I'll cover is speed and reaction time, as I feel this will be the simplest to go over. Now, in terms of travel speed / running speed, again, Itachi isn't really well known for being as fast as someone as the Raikage, but with his reaction time and precog through the Sharingan, it's safe to say that he's definitely got a very good chance of reacting to each of the Sannin individually, with the fastest being Sage Mode Jiraiya, at least when it comes to the feats we have to go off of. It's never really stated if Orochimaru is on the exact same level as Jiraiya in either base or Sage Mode, but if we wanted to go with the highest assertions for Orochimaru and say he's on the same level as Jiraiya in Sage Mode, then we could get his speed to the same level as Jiraiya as well. And even though Tsunade is likely the slowest of the Sannin, her reaction time shouldn't be slept on, as during the 5 Kage's fight with Madara, she was fighting relative to A and was doing a pretty decent job fighting off numerous Susanoo wood clones at once. In terms of travel speed, I would put Sage Jiraiya above Itachi, not like a tortoise in the hair difference, but still. But in terms of reaction time, I'd say they're on the same level, with Itachi having the reaction time necessary to both react to KCM Naruto and Killer Bee. Now, there's a couple of things that might contradict this. So in the fight with Pain, Jiraiya got caught off guard by the Ashura path and actually had enough time to speak a whole sentence to him and still managed to hit Jiraiya, again while in Sage Mode. And the human path was able to block a full-on punch from this same Sage Jiraiya. But then again, he was still able to blitz this same human path just moments earlier. Now, I say this because Edo Itachi, who scales lower to alive Itachi physically, was quick enough to one-shot Edo Nagato, who is more powerful than Pain. But there's a couple of factors that need to be taken into account. For one, it's possible that this wasn't really Nagato, because after Itachi stabs him with a Totsuka blade, Itachi says, "Good, you're back." So it's not really clear as to whether or not this happened as a result of Nagato being on Edo zombie autopilot or something, or if this was ultimately just Kabuto fighting them using Nagato's abilities. To which, I think it's more the latter, since Kabuto even said that he was trying to remember the name of Planetary Devastation, and as soon as he did, he proceeded to use it. So based off that, you could actually say that Kabuto was the one that technically got stabbed by the Totsuka blade and not Nagato. The second thing is that even if it was Nagato himself being on Edo autopilot, then he was just standing there stationary and not even trying to move. I think it's a little bit different when you're trying to hit a moving target when you're using a giant sword. So ultimately, I can see Jiraiya being faster when it comes to travel speed, but Itachi having better reaction time. Now, how does he stack up against all three of them trying to rush him? Well, if we're setting aside the Susanoo for a moment here, as well as any of the extra summons from the Sannin respectively, and given the speed and reaction time scaling for each character, I think for the most part, Itachi has a better chance of reacting to all three of them at the same time. However fast Sage Jiraiya is, he isn't on the same level of speed of KCM Naruto, Raikage, or Killer Bee. And Itachi was able to react to both KCM Naruto and Killer Bee. That said, with all three Sannin coming in from different angles, and with the reaction time feats, along with any synergy that they might have, it's just as likely they'd be able to react to most of Itachi's attacks too, and corner them possibly. At least in terms of normal attacks such as taijutsu and regular fire style, etc, etc. Now, when it comes to all three Sannin plus and or all the summons that they decide to pull out, such as Manda, Hashirama, and Tobirama, Gamabunta, Ma, Katsuyu, I don't know if I'd be able to comfortably say that Itachi could take them all on without using a Susanoo, and definitely not without using any of his MS abilities. Which brings me to the topic of jutsu variety. Now, technically, with the Sharingan, Itachi does have just as much, if not more, jutsu than the Sannin collectively, since he can copy just about any jutsu they have, aside from the reanimation jutsu and the 100 healings. But let's be real here, like, the jutsu that Itachi is more liable to use are his MS abilities. Now, on the subject of the Sannin fighting Itachi within the Susanoo without any summons, while it might be more difficult for Itachi to land a stab on the smaller moving target, it will also be difficult for the Sannin to get through the Susanoo's defenses. Now again, this will be the Sannin without prior knowledge of Itachi's abilities aside from Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi, meaning that they will not have any knowledge of the Totsuka blade being able to seal them if they get stabbed. I mean, unless Itachi ends up like stabbing something else with a Totsuka blade and it gets sealed, then Orochimaru might come to the conclusion of what it was, since he was already searching for the Totsuka blade anyway. Now, I don't want to say the Sannin are this reckless, but there's a chance ones like Orochimaru and Tsunade might not take the Totsuka blade as serious as they need to. I say this because until he knew what it actually was, Orochimaru just kind of laughed the Totsuka blade off initially, so he might end up doing the same thing here. As for Tsunade, she might be the one that rushes in regardless. Being that she'll likely have 100 healings active, she might possibly see an opening and try to just charge through Itachi without any regard for the Totsuka blade. I mean, we saw how she was fighting during the Wood Clone Madara section. Like, at some point, she got impaled by 2 Susanoo blades, implying she was just going all ham and not really caring too much if she got injured. Raikage A even comments on this and says that she was getting sloppy with her fighting. If she does the same thing here but ends up being stabbed by the Totsuka blade, she's cooked. Now, if they are on the more cautious side, then I think it will be more difficult for Itachi to secure a win by a poke from the Totsuka blade. But if it's just the 3 of them, then I think he could eventually get at least one of them with it, thereby increasing his odds of winning. But if we say that all the Sannin bring out what they can all at once, I don't know. Because again, we're talking about Manda, Hashirama, and Tobirama, who are able to press Old Man Hiruzen, Gamabunta, Manpa, and Katsuyu, on top of 100 healing Tsunade, Sage Mode Jiraiya, and Orochimaru with his arms. And even if you want to say that in the case of Orochimaru, he doesn't send Manda, Hashirama, and Tobirama all at the same time, it doesn't really matter because he could just wait until either Manda or the Senju brothers kick the bucket and just send out the other one accordingly. All the while, Itachi's eyes and body are going to be deteriorating through the use of the Susanoo. And even though this will be healthy Itachi, if he has to rely on the Susanoo for a period of time, especially the bigger half-bodied version of the Susanoo, he's going to be possibly feeling the effects of it sooner rather than later. We saw this when Sasuke fought at the 5 Kage Summit. Granted, he didn't use the fullest extent that he could until the latter part of the arc, but once he had, it didn't take too long before he started to feel the effects, and even started feeling the effects from just using the ribcage. Now, when it comes to the Susanoo's defenses, I know there's been division amongst the community on whether or not the Yadomir specifically is omnidirectional, or if it's just a shield that Itachi has to keep in front of him. I'll speak on both sides of the argument. If the Yadomir is an omnidirectional, then the Sannin have more of the advantage. Because while yes, the bigger summons are easy targets for the Totsuka blade, with many other opponents and attacks coming in from all sides, it leaves more chances for them to break through. For example, if Itachi focuses on Gamabunta specifically, then that leaves all of Manda, Tsunade with her strength, Jiraiya with any save jutsu, including his massive Rasengan, Manpa possibly using Frog Song, Hashirama with any wood style, Tobirama with any water style, Orochimaru with any attacks he wants to use, and Katsuyu with their acid, which we know can melt the Susanoo. And as strong as Itachi is, and as durable as the Susanoo is, I can't say with full certainty it'd be able to withstand all that. Heck, I'd even go so far as to say that Tsunade and Jiraiya together could break through the Susanoo, setting aside the Yadomir. Itachi can use Amaterasu while in the Susanoo, which, if I had to guess, he'd do it on one of the larger targets. So if we say that the combination of the Totsuka blade and 2 Amaterasu shots, that he'd be able to get Manda, Gamabunta, and Katsuyu off the field, then that does reduce the numbers problem for Itachi and increases his chances of winning. But that still leaves 3 Sannin, plus the Senju brothers, Ma and Pa, including any more snakes or toad summons that Orochimaru and Jiraiya feel like they can bring out. On top of the 8-headed serpent from the Orochimaru if he felt pressure to do so. And with the constant use of the Susanoo plus the Amaterasu shots he'll have to keep putting out, it's going to both exhaust his eyes and body, which could leave an opening for the Sannin to capitalize on. Now, if the Yadomir is omnidirectional, it's going to hold up against their onslaught for a lot longer. And the Sannin's best chance is to hope they can stay on the offensive without getting stabbed by the Totsuka blade long enough for Itachi to either run out of chakra, or burn out his eyesight, or his body just gives out from the Susanoo usage. Now, I know there's going to be some people who talk about both Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi. With the latter, yes, Itachi pretty much one-shot Orochimaru with ocular genjutsu before, but just like Kakashi, it's possible that Orochimaru might learn from that mistake. It's also worth noting that when Itachi did so, Orochimaru obviously didn't take Itachi as seriously as he should have, but now with the benefit of hindsight, he'll likely be more cautious this time around. Though, admittedly, he kind of did have the same kind of attitude when he got stabbed by the Totsuka blade, so it's possible he'd be just as reckless and not take Itachi seriously here too. But with Jiraiya and Tsunade, I feel like we'll be more cautious, especially with them having intel that they would have on both Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi. But something that they will also have here is Hashirama, or in the anime, Tobirama's Bringer of Darkness genjutsu. This could possibly help prevent Itachi from casting any genjutsu on the Sannin. However, we've never seen this jutsu be cast on someone who has a dojutsu themselves, so we don't really know how Itachi could react. And since the Sharingan is supposed to see through all kinds of jutsu, including genjutsu, there's a chance Itachi could still counter it. So at most, it's a 50-50 that it could work. Best case is that they could use the Bringer of Darkness and Jiraiya could have Ma and Pa activate Frog Song at the same time to further hinder Itachi while either Jiraiya or Tsunade go in for a strike. And as strong as Itachi is, I don't know if he'd be able to survive a full-on punch from both Tsunade and Sage Mode Jiraiya, especially if Jiraiya uses something like Sage Art Massive or Sharingan. Now, before anyone gets triggered and starts to type in the comments, I'm not saying that just because you have prior knowledge of both Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi means that you're guaranteed to counter it. I'm fully aware that Itachi, being the super genius that he is just as likely, if not more so, capable of being able to come up with a strategy to get each respective Sannin caught with either jutsu. But this might be something similar to what Pain had alluded to when he spoke about how if Jiraiya had had the right intel at the beginning of the fight, he might have won. Now, whether or not you actually believe he could have won is a whole nother conversation, but the point is that having this intel going in is going to afford more opportunities to possibly counter the jutsu rather than not having it at all. Especially with the other two competent and skilled fighters such as Tsunade and Orochimaru, plus Ma and Pa giving any kind of wisdom that they could provide. Something that could help Itachi here is the use of shadow clones. Itachi is one to use shadow clones in very clever ways, most notably being able to detonate the clones on command. And with neither Sannin having a dojutsu to help even remotely help them determine which one is the clone and which one's the original, all they're going to have to rely on is their intuition and instinct. With Jiraiya having Sage Energy, he might be able to sense it beforehand, but with Tsunade, I mean, unless the explosion is strong enough or powerful enough to completely blow her to bits, which, hey, I mean, it is possible, it's an explosion after all, then with 100 healings, Tsunade should be okay. Orochimaru can possibly just rebirth himself. I know it takes a good amount of chakra to do so, but if he has to do so, then he's going to have to do so. So Jiraiya might be the only casualty in that, but if he's in Sage mode, he might be able to sense the danger beforehand. Now, something I wasn't too sure about, and I might need someone to help in the comments, is we've seen things like Mei's Vapor Style can melt through the Susanoo. And with Katsuyu's Acid, I have no doubt it would likely do the same thing to Itachi Susanoo. But what about the Yamamiri itself? I mean, by the definition of it, it should be able to change its properties in accordance with whatever it comes into contact with. But this might be like a Kamui versus Yamamiri type deal, because I am one of those fans that believes the Kamui could break through the Yamamiri. But what about Acid? I ask because if the Yamamiri is omnidirectional, and if the Acid can work, then the Yamamiri being omnidirectional is a moot point unless Itachi can get Katsuyu out the field quickly enough. But if the Acid can't work on the Yamamiri, and if the Yamamiri is omnidirectional, then that's just going to further increase Itachi's chances of holding off his opponents long enough to take the win. So that might be a up to interpretation kind of thing, and it might be up to what y'all think. Something else that I could also see Itachi being able to do is use genjutsu on the summons themselves, similar to how Sasuke used genjutsu on Manda. But if that's the case, there's a good possibility that any of the teammates around, such as Gamabunta, Ma or Pa, etc., can break whoever is caught out. Unless it's Tsukuyomi, then they're not getting out. Itachi also has Izanami and Izanagi, or vice versa, but best case scenario is that leaves him with one less Sannin to fight, but to do so with only one Sharingan. And as strong and as skilled as Itachi is, I don't know if he'd be able to beat two Sannin at the same time with just one Sharingan. I guess it would just depend on how far into the fight that this happens. I will say that this is going to be a full-way cop-out answer kind of deal. But if it's Itachi versus the Sannin in a 1v3 without them using any other summons, then I think Itachi has it, as it'll possibly be easier for him to come up with a strategy to get each respective Sannin caught with either Tsukuyomi or Amaterasu, especially if he is able to use the Susanoo. Now, if all three Sannin use all their summons right off the bat, and Itachi for some reason doesn't go into Susanoo, he's cooked. Now, if Itachi does use Susanoo and the Sannin use their respective summons at the same time, and if the Yamamiri isn't omnidirectional, then I think the Sannin have more of a chance to win, albeit very high difficulty. But on the other hand, if the Yamamiri is omnidirectional, then I think it's vice versa, and Itachi has more chances to win. But again, very high difficulty for the Sannin. So there y'all have it. There's the rest of the video. Click the bell for more notifications and comment some questions, comment some hot takes, whatever you want. Again, in the next couple weeks, I'll post a community post about the Q&A, so you can type your questions in there if you want to save them. But again, if you want to see your question be put on the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel to further increase your chances. So thank you all for watching all the way to the end. If you have, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for more notifications. Till the next one, like Snow, out.